Hey fam, today we're doing a balayage to as light blonde as we can on this naturally black hair with previous foil work. So stick around. Full disclaimer here, I have accidentally filmed in vertical instead of horizontal, so bear with me guys, I'm so sorry. This isn't my usual film quality. Let's get on to the service today. So as you guys can see, she has a lot of her natural black in there and she has some previous blonde foils. And what I'm doing here is I've just let out a pretty decent sized slice, not big, but enough that it's gonna show some dimension in the hair. And then after that, I'm doing a skinny slice and picking out some of the black. Now, I'm not actually picking out all of the black. I'm not trying to make her platinum card. I'm not trying to get all of the ends entirely blonde, so there's no stress there. But what I'm doing is I am doing two back-to-back skinny slices where I weave out the dark bits and those are going into the foil. So what this is gonna allow us to have the look of is these little pieces are gonna be the highlights that go right up to the root, and I'm doing my best to go right up close, but not too close that I get foil bleeds, because of course with these sitting in the hair for a long time, they're gonna wanna slide a little bit, and you don't wanna get, tiger stripes all over the head. But what this look is gonna do is those two skinny foils right next to each other are gonna give us that punch of blonde that we wanna see without a stripy look. And that slice that's going to be left out, it still has some blonde in the end, so it's still going to have that nice balayage-y blonde tip look, but it's going to provide us some depth and dimension within the middle of the hair. Now, the reason why I do two slices back to back is because her hair is naturally black. It's very, very dark. And if you have lifted very dark hair before, you know that you have to take super, super thin sections in order for it to lift 9 levels in one sitting. And I'm actually doing a low and slow developer here today. I'm using Schwarzkopf Blonde Me, which is very powerful, but I am using 7 volume here, which is a very slow lift because her hair is fragile, because we've gone back and forth from, all of our dark natural to all light and then adding some more dark in. Now we want to go light again. So I'm having a little bit of a challenge here in the chair where I have to pick out pieces that are black rather than dark brown, because any of the pieces that are dark brown at the very ends, they were light and they went back dark again, and I don't want to over lighten them too much. So as you guys can see, what I'm doing is I am saturating fully on any of the black pieces, folding the hair up, and I'm kicking out the blonde ends. And anything that's sitting against the lightener is going to be something that still needs to lift a little bit, but not with as much time as the black stuff does. So it's not fully saturated, it's just kind of half saturated. And we obviously did use K18 for this service today because she desperately needs it. Her hair just doesn't love to be lifted, but overall she does want to be, a bright beige blonde, and I do my best to give that to her. So after doing two sides like that with diagonal slices that I'm weaving, you're left with this little corner piece, this little triangle, and this connects those two pieces. So I am leaving out a decent size triangle here just for some dimension, and then I am being quite cautious with how little I put into this because I don't want this back area piece to be too blonde, right? I don't want it to look like a big blonde slice. So I'm just doing a little weave here and putting that in, and then I will do one after that as well that you'll see. Now this is just a connecting piece. A lot of people don't really focus on connecting pieces while they're doing their foiling work, which can allow the overall look to look kind of choppy and disconnected, and you can see where the foils are. These are important pieces to put into the hair, especially in areas like the apex of the head here, where the parting tends to open up and split open and you can see the foil work. So these transitional connector areas are very important, and it's good to not leave them out entirely, especially with one this big. It would just look like a big black chunk in the hair, and not to overfoil it either because it is in the apex and you don't want that apex to open up and look like a big blonde chunk either, because that's not going to give her something that lasts long and grows out nicely. So that little veil can sit on top, and that's totally okay. It's like a little bit of a low light looking veil. And now here I am doing the front. I'm sorry, I didn't really get a good angle on this section, but I'm going to do my best to describe what I'm doing here. I am doing some baby lights, and I am following the diagonal the diagonal of her hairline. But I have noticed around at this part that some of those baby hairs up in the temple are just too short to foil. So I am switching up my angle after I do these two pieces that kind of sit on her hairline. And now I am doing a connecting piece that connects from those two pieces to this back section here. My sectioning is going to be a little bit different in the sides here than it is in the back, because in the back what we're trying to do is we're giving that baby light dimensional look by doing a slice out and then two thin slices that have weaved in a highlight back to back next to each other. And what that's gonna give us is a nice dimension for the back only. For the front, we want more blonde. So I'm kind of doing 3 slices to 1 dropout, a little bit. And the dropout still has some more blonde in the ends from our previous foiling. And what I do actually like about these kinds of services is that you're working with your previous foils, not against them. And these previous foils are going to allow her to still have blonder ends than she is on the top, and give her something that is soft and rooty and pretty looking. So this is that balayage look that people look up on Pinterest. It's not necessarily like a technical balayage where I would open air hand paint things. I do that as well, but you know, this is, I'm calling a balayage because this is what people would look up on Pinterest and they'd be like, that's a balayage. Also, because you can see that I've pulled out those little like baby hairs from around her face there a couple seconds ago, and was like, oh yeah, no, these are too short. And if we start highlighting them, it's going to look really weird and chunky and blonde there, and there's just no reason for us to highlight them. So we are going to work around them and with them instead of against them today. So this is what the sides all look like when they're completed. Everything connects. And now we're going to be doing the top. So I'm starting with this apex section, and I'm going to have that as a separate kind of thing from the mohawk here, because again, this is the spot of the hair that tends to open up and reveal a lot of darkness. So I am leaving out a patch there, which is pretty big, and I'm doing a small soft weave, and that weave goes a little bit deep, but it's still a fine weave. I don't know how to really explain that fully. I'm sorry I didn't get a really good angle on this either, but I would rather not do quite enough foiling in this section than to overfoil it and make it too blonde and chunky looking. And some people might actually want to know why I'm not just taking thin slices and doing a medium weave on them. I would do that if I want like a bold blonde look, but what she likes is this really soft baby light look and to have a rooty look. So the baby lights are still really like thin weaves, but I'm weaving deeper into this section, as you can probably tell a little bit here. I'm taking these kind of 1/8 of an inch sections, and I am weaving down near the scalp, kind of deep into the section, so that it doesn't look like a drop and then a baby light and then a drop and then a baby light if I were to leave this unrooted and just go right up to the scalp and just tone it from there without a root drop. You would be able to see that probably more if I did that, but going deeper into the section while you're weaving, while still keeping skinny weaves, is going to give a softer blend, especially with using the power painter and flicking up towards the root too. That allows another kind of little bit of softness, because we're not trying to create a really harsh root line that we have to cover over with a root shadow. We still always want to blend as much as we can with all of our applications, no matter what, because sometimes root shadows don't really stick well for some people, and sometimes they fade too fast. We still want the work underneath to be top quality and very blendy, rather than really stripy and strippy. And so we like this soft baby light look. And if we wanted something where you could tell the difference between, where you could pick out pieces of the blonde versus the black super easily, then I would do thinner slices with bigger weaves and bigger dropouts. Then you could kind of tell that better. But everybody has their own kind of preference on what they like it to all look like. And we like a really soft, blendy, balayage of a beige tone. There's a lot of bees there, I'm just realizing right now. But yeah, this is how I work through the mohawk up towards the front. I start with like 1/8 of an inch sections, and I get a little bit thinner when I'm getting up closer to the front, and I will weave a little bit more intentionally into the foil than what I did with the previous pieces. Because as you can see with these previous pieces, it probably looks like 50-50. I have half in the foil and half left out of the foil. And that gives us a really super blonde impact without being too harsh. But as we get closer towards that money piece, we do want to increase it just a little bit. And those are those fine details that kind of separate you from the rest of the crowd when people just do the same foil technique the whole way through. If they don't focus on the details of how the head is and where the light is, and where we have soft transitions from super light into the darker colors, you just want to pay attention to these types of things and customize and curate the foil work for each of your clients to see what they want, because that's what makes this hair artistry. And I think that that's important. I don't really know what else to say about that. But yeah, for this area here, because the heat of the scalp does lift it up faster, I didn't do just 20 volume. I did 20 volume and 7 volume to kind of kick it down. It's probably like a 12 to 15 volume somewhere in there. And the rest of the head was just 7 volume because, again, she has fragile hair. And we did use K18, of course, but because her hair went from, light to dark, now it's going light again, we did have some breakage in the ends, and that's just natural and that's normal. It's what you're gonna have to deal with when you're going to do those very intense back and forth decisions. If you constantly are switching up your mind and going from one extreme to the other, you do have to expect that there is going to be breakage to the hair. And that's okay, because we did end up giving her a cut anyways, and her hair feels pretty decent afterwards. But that's the reality of hair, and I'm not here to lie to you guys about it. Now what we're going to do is the front here. This is the money piece. So I've taken this size of a section, and I'm leaving out a few of her baby hairs just in the very front that aren't going to go into a foil well. And I've just learned over time that if there's some cowlicks with those first few baby hairs, just not to lighten them up if you can, because putting them in a foil, you're going to create a little line for yourself no matter what you do with certain cowlicks. So if you can kick out a couple of those little cowlick pieces and just try to foil as fine and soft as you can, then you're more likely to get a softer looking money piece, even if there is a few baby hairs out. And it's actually a good idea for her here because the temple hair is being kept out as well. So it would look kind of weird, like there's 2 black holes on the side of her hair if we didn't. And yeah, again, working with her overall look, we do want to have a bit more of a root here that we're going to be dropping down after we've done all of her foiling, because that's what blends in best with her baby hairs. And then she doesn't have to come in super often. She comes in twice a year. So once in the summer for a full head, and once in the winter for her winter blonde, which is a half head and a slightly deeper toner. And that way she gets a mix of 2 different types of blondes that she wants to have without going extremely dark to extremely light and back and forth. We usually do like a level 9 toner for the summer, keep her super blonde, and like a level 8 for the winter and give her that softer, slightly darker winter blonde. So I'm sorry that my arms are getting in the way, and I've gotten in the way a lot in this video. I just really wasn't thinking when I was doing my filming, and I appreciate you guys for sticking around to this point with me today on my filming. Again, so sorry about that. I didn't think about using my camera. I was just pulling my phone out. I was like, oh, let's do a little bit of filming. And then I was like, oh, this is actually going to be a really good one. Let's make it for YouTube. So these pieces here, I am putting more blonde in, as you can probably tell, and I am doing really teeny tiny weaves, but most of the hair is going into the foil, which is what makes it a money piece, versus the rest of the mohawk, which is about a 50-50 split. And then it went to like maybe 60-40 in those last few pieces up towards the front. And this is what creates a soft transition towards the money piece without the money piece being super aggressive. I think we're all pretty used to, and maybe a little bit done, seeing super aggressive money pieces. I think those were a fad, but still learning the balance of keeping something brighter in the front without making it look ridiculous is, again, another part of the art here that I'm just here to help kind of teach if possible. Now I'm gonna talk to you about my root shadow toner formula. Today I mixed up Schwarzkopf Vibrance in order from most to least, 5-1, 5-5, and 5-0. I only use like 5 grams of the 5-0 here. And the reason for that being is because it's like a brown base. And I want that brown base, the natural, to hold the other color in and create a good balance. But those other colors there, the 5-1 is a 5 ash, and a 5-5 is a 5 gold. And I find that the colors ash and gold in Schwarzkopf here make a nice beige together without putting too much purple in it. Because the beiges in Schwarzkopf do kind of have a purpley undertone, which is good. But at this level, I like to mix a 5-1 and a 5-5. It looks a little bit more natural. It has a little bit more depth to it. And that the few grams of 5-0 just put a little extra hold into that color and a little bit more opacity so that it's not all the way like fully opaque, but it's not really a see-through shadow root either. The way I like to apply my shadow root, as you can see, is I like to do it vertically and work my way around the head, and that is the opposite of what I was doing for putting the foils in. So it's kind of like doing a cross check for blending. As you guys can see, there are bold blonde areas, but they are soft in their overall look after that first bit of root shadowing. And that's the look we're going for, is that you can see the dimension in the hair, but she's still got a really bright lift and she's still got dimension in there. It looks soft. Overall, this is the kind of look you're going to get with that foiling pattern that I showed you. When you do a foiling pattern that has the stripes of color going the opposite way, you're going to get more stripy hair. But when you have the foiling pattern where the stripes are horizontal, you're going to get a softer look. And when you do them diagonal, you kind of get the best of both worlds. You get soft, flowy dimension. I hope that makes sense. Anyways, for these front pieces, I find it's very important to brush the hair all back so you're not accidentally getting any blonde pieces stuck to any of the root shadow. And I like to work from the center of the back on both sides towards the front and have the money piece be done root shadowed last so that the root shadow is softest on the money piece in case it's quite dark. But I do want this one to be decently dark because her natural base is like a level 3 and this root shadow is a level 5. After that has sat for about 15 minutes, I went in with my highlight toner formula, which is Schwarzkopf, again, from most to least, 9-4, 9-4-2, and 9-1. So some of you regulars might think, where's the warmth? And normally I do have warm mixed into my toner formula as well, but today it's a little bit different. I wanted to just stick with the cool colors because I'm going a level lighter than what I feel like the natural color is lifted to. Like I feel like her lift is like a strong 8, 8.5, but I'm toning at a level 9 with stronger toners in the level 9, if you get what I'm saying. So I feel like these level 9s, like the 9-4, 9-4-2, and 9-1, you put that on a level 8 and you get a soft beige. You don't over deposit. It doesn't go ashy. It doesn't do too much. If you're concerned about your beige formulas going too dull, I would suggest formulating half a level lighter than you think that you need to go, and that will probably help it out a lot. I didn't want to formulate her for the level she had lifted to, because if you do put in these toners that have more pigment in them and tend to deepen down and dull down color, something with a lot of ash and a lot of beige, then you might not get the brightness that you want out of it. So this one does just have cool tones in it, but cool tones at a lighter level. Hope that made sense. Again, my brain is a little bit fried today. So I did a lot of foil work. I did 2 balayages and there was lots of color correcting going on with my first one that I had today. So I don't know, my brain's just a little bit broken, but I hope that everything I've been saying in this tutorial is making sense to all the hairdressers and the non-hairdressers out there, because I realize there's a lot of you guys. Now there's quite a few people who just watch these videos just for fun. Anyways, here is her hair after. I'm going to show in all the different lights of the salon. Our light is in front of us here, and this is with indirect light here, and I think it's just so gorgeous and sandy beige and soft. The camera is picking up a little extra warmth that's not really there because the sun was setting. So her hair doesn't look this golden in real life. It just looks like a bright, soft, beigey blonde. But overall, she was so happy with it, and it still has a really soft root shadow. I'm going to show you that there. It's got a nice root drop because I only went about 1.5 to 2 inches down and combed it through with my brush, which counts for a lot. You always want to comb through that root shadow. And here's what it looks like in a shadier spot in the salon. Again, really soft, but she still has a lot of blonde in there. You can see the ribbons of soft baby lights, which is what this overall foil pattern ends up looking like. She's got a lot of softness while still maintaining a lot of dimension, and she can go a good 6 months without needing this to be touched up unless she just wants to come in for a toner. So what do you guys think about this? I know I stumbled my way through this video. I hope you still enjoyed it. And despite the camera angles and me getting in the way and the camera only being at a vertical view today, I hope that there was still enough interesting content for you guys. Let me know in the comments below what you thought of this tutorial, and would you ever do this? Do you like this pattern, and would you wear something like this? I don't know. Let me know. Thanks guys again. Make sure to like and subscribe and follow me on Instagram at BleachDaddy. Have a good day.